Chapter 9. Dead Pixels. Gravity. Lena decided as she peeled her face off the wet German soil, was a harsh mistress. But at least it was a consistent one. They had landed in a muddy embankment on the outskirts of a dormant vineyard. The fall had been brutal, a tumble of limbs and gravel that had left Lena with a bruised ribcage and a torn lab coat. Kian had fared slightly better, his youthful agility allowing him to roll into a crouch, though he was currently limping as he dragged her toward the cover of the vines. "We have maybe an hour before the train crew reports the breach," Kian hissed, scanning the horizon. "We need cover." They found it in a dilapidated stone maintenance shed half swallowed by ivy. It wasn't much. A dirt floor, a rotting wooden roof, and a rusty tractor. But it was dry, and it blocked the biting wind. Kian slumped against the tractor tire, pulling the stolen tablet from his jacket. The screen was cracked, a spiderweb of glass fracturing the blue light, but it still worked. "We need a new plan," Kian said, wiping mud from the screen. "Hamburg is burned. If the auditor is tracking probability vectors, he knows we were heading for a transport hub." "He's not tracking probability?" Lena winced, pressing a hand to her side. "He's tracking code. We're the anomaly." She crawled over to him, looking at the tablet. "Pull up the Planck map." Kian frowned. "The what?" "The Planck Space Telescope data. The all-sky map of the cosmic microwave background radiation." "Lena, we are currently fugitives in a German shed. Why are we looking at astrophysics?" "Because of the trilemma," Lena said, her voice straining with pain but firm with conviction. "If we are in a simulation, Kian, it has limits. It has boundaries. In a video game, the world isn't infinite. There's a skybox, a static image wrapped around the level to make it look like it goes on forever." Kian stared at her, then tapped the screen. He routed the tablet's connection through a series of bouncing proxies and accessed the public archives of the European Space Agency. "Okay," he said. "I have the CMB map. It's the oldest light in the universe, the afterglow of the Big Bang." "It's a texture," Lena corrected. "It's a background wallpaper. Zoom in on the southern hemisphere. Look for the Eridanus constellation." Kian swiped across the cracked screen. The map was a mottled oval of blue and orange heat signatures, representing the minute temperature fluctuations of the early universe. "There," Lena pointed to a large, deep blue blotch near the bottom right quadrant. "The cold spot." "I know it," Kian said. "It's the Eridanus supervoid. A region of space 1.8 billion light-years across that is significantly colder than the rest of the universe. Physicists have been arguing about it for decades. They argue because it violates the cosmological principle," Lena said. "The universe is supposed to be isotropic, uniform in all directions. But that spot is too cold. It's too big. The probability of it existing in a standard physical model is less than 1%. So it's a statistical fluke." "No," Lena whispered. "Look at the edges." Kian zoomed in as far as the low-resolution JPEG would allow. "The temperature gradient isn't smooth," Lena explained. "In a real gas cloud, the heat would dissipate gradually. But look at the border of the void. It's sharp." Kian squinted. "It looks blocky. It looks pixelated." Lena leaned back, closing her eyes. "I ran the numbers on the supervoid during my doctorate. I tried to model it as a gravity well, as a texture of dark energy. Nothing fit. The math always broke down at the event horizon of the void." She opened her eyes and looked at Kian. "It's not a void, Kian. It's a rendering error. There's a dead pixel in the skybox. The simulation couldn't load the texture for that sector of the universe, so it just left it null. Cold. Empty. Kian looked from her to the tablet. He looked at the vast, terrifying emptiness of the Eridanus supervoid. If that's a dead pixel, he said slowly, it's 1.8 billion light-years wide. Scale is relative, Lena said. To the machine running this, that might just be a single bit of corrupted memory. Kian set the tablet down. The implications were settling in. If you're right, he said, then the sky isn't real. It's just a projection. And if we can prove that, we can't prove it by looking at it, Lena interrupted. The simulation is foveated. It renders high resolution where we look. But the supervoid is too far away to trigger a high-res render. That's why it looks glitchy. So we force it to render, Kian said, picking up the thread. Exactly. We need to create a localized event so complex, so demanding of processing power, that the system has to divert resources from the background to handle the foreground. If we overload the local processor, the background texture should fail completely. Like lag, Kian said, a grin returning to his muddy face. If you overload the CPU, the distant graphics disappear to save frame rate. Yes, we need to crash the sky. Kian stood up, pacing the small shed. Okay, to crash a server you need a zip bomb, a file that looks small but expands into petabytes of data when you open it. But we're in the physical world. We can't unzip a file. We can unzip physics, Lena said. We need a paradox engine. We need to create a quantum state that violates the Pauli exclusion principle. Two fermions occupying the same quantum state simultaneously. That's impossible, Kian said. Matter can't do that. Matter can't, Lena agreed. But code can. If we hack the collision logic. She looked at him. We need a quantum computer, Kian. A big one. Bigger than anything CERN has. Kian stopped pacing. He looked out the cracked window of the shed, toward the east. I know a guy, he said. Elias Thorne, tech trillionaire. Made his fortune mining asteroids, or at least simulating the mining of asteroids. He has a fortress in Singapore. Does he have a quantum core? He has the only private quantum core capable of running a 500-qubit lattice, Kian said. He uses it to predict the stock market. But there's a catch. What? He's paranoid. He thinks the government is trying to steal his brain. He lives in a Faraday cage the size of a stadium. Perfect, Lena said, standing up and wincing as her ribs protested. If he's paranoid, he's paying attention. And if he's paying attention, he's probably noticed the lag. Kian nodded. He tapped the screen of the tablet, shutting down the connection. Singapore, he said. It's a long way from a German vineyard. Then we better start walking, Lena said. She looked up at the roof of the shed, imagining the stars beyond it. She used to look up with wonder. Now she looked up with scrutiny. She wasn't seeing the heavens anymore. She was seeing the grid, and she was going to break it,